The storm's gift, the warning, came too late. Captain Sarah Chen watched her exploration vessel's hull buckle as Kethros's atmosphere tore through the ship's shields like paper. The planet's legendary storms weren't just weather, they were electromagnetic. Hurricanes that could shred metal and cook electronics in seconds. Mayday, Mayday. Sarah shouted into her come, knowing no one would hear. The nearest human outpost was 3 systems away. Her ship, the Wanderer, spun helplessly toward the planet's surface, trailing plasma and debris. The crash should have killed her. The twisted wreckage of her ship lay scattered across a crystalline valley, smoking in the alien rain. But Sarah Chen was still breathing, and that was more than she had any right to expect. Through her cracked helmet visor, she saw them approaching. Tall, graceful beings moving across the storm-swept landscape with purpose. The Kethrons looked like a fusion of mantis and dancer, their 4 arms moving in fluid coordination as they navigated the treacherous terrain. Their Katona skin gleamed with natural oils that repelled the acidic precipitation. Elder Zixthal reached her first. His compound eyes, each the size of Sarah's fist, studied her with ancient intelligence. Behind him came his daughter Valana, younger but already bearing the ritual scars of a healer. They had never seen a human before, but they recognized suffering. The rescue was dangerous. Kethros's atmosphere was toxic to most off-world species, and the storms made any movement a gamble with death. But the Kethrons didn't hesitate. They constructed an emergency shelter around Sarah's location, using their natural ability to secrete a polymer resin that hardened into protective barriers. For 3 days, they kept her alive while the worst storm in decades raged overhead. Valana mixed breathing compounds from local minerals, creating an atmosphere Sarah's damaged lungs could process. Zixthal used bioluminescent fungi to provide warmth when her suit's systems failed. When the storm finally passed, they carried Sarah to their city. Kethmoran wasn't built, was grown. The Kethrons cultivated massive fungi into living buildings, their walls breathing and responding to the inhabitants' needs. The entire city pulsed with gentle light, a harmony of biology and intelligence that took Sarah's breath away. Recovery was slow. Sarah's legs had been crushed in the crash, and human medical knowledge meant nothing here. But Valana proved to be a master of bioengineering. She grew new bone matrix from cultures, guided Sarah's muscles to rebuild themselves, and taught her damaged nervous system to function again. During the long months of healing, Sarah learned their language. Kethron communication was a complex dance of sound, pheromones, and gesture. She discovered they were natural scholars, their libraries containing thousands of years of accumulated knowledge about their world and the galaxy beyond. Your people explore the stars, Zixthal observed one evening as they sat in his garden of glowing flowers. You seek knowledge as we do. Sarah nodded, watching the alien sunset paint the sky in shades of purple and gold. Humans are curious, sometimes too curious for our own good. Curiosity is never wrong, Valana said. Her mandibles clicking in what Sarah had learned was laughter. Only the failure to learn from what you discover. Sarah taught them about human space, about the growing tensions between species, about the darker elements that lurked beyond peaceful worlds like Kethros. The galaxy wasn't safe, she warned them. Predatory species viewed planets like this as resources to be consumed. We have lived in peace for millennia, Zixthal said. Why would anyone wish us harm? Because you have something they want, Sarah replied. Your crystals, your knowledge, your very planet. In space, innocence is often seen as weakness. The Kethrans listened but didn't truly understand. Violence was so foreign to their nature that they couldn't conceive of systematic cruelty. When the human rescue ship finally arrived, Sarah was walking again. The Kethrans had saved not just her life, but rebuilt her body better than it had been before. She stood in the city center, surrounded by thousands of her rescuers, struggling for words. "You gave me everything," she said to Zixthal. "How can I ever repay this debt?" The elder's compound eyes shifted colors. Embarrassment, Sarah had learned. There is no debt between friends. But Sarah reached into her pack and pulled out a small device, an emergency beacon linked to human military frequencies. It was standard issue for exploration captains, designed to call for help across impossible distances. "Keep this," she said, pressing it into Valana's forehands. "If danger ever comes to Kethros, activate it. Humanity remembers its debts." Valana turned the device over curiously. "This small thing can speak across the void. It can do more than speak," Sarah said solemnly. "If you ever need us, we'll come. All of us." The Kethrans accepted the gift politely, but Sarah could see they considered it a touching gesture from an emotional species. They had no concept of human loyalty, no understanding of what happens when you save one of their own. As Sarah's rescue ship lifted off from Kethros, she took one last look at the glowing city below. She made a mental note to recommend the planet for protected status, to ensure no one would disturb the peaceful Kethrans. But the galaxy had its own plans. 18 years passed. Sarah rose through the ranks of the Human Defense Force, becoming Admiral Chen of the Fifth Fleet. She never forgot Kethros, but assumed the peaceful world would remain undisturbed in its distant corner of space. She was wrong. The Hegemony Empire was expanding again. Their war machine required constant feeding, new worlds to strip, new populations to enslave, new resources to fuel their conquest. When their scouts discovered the quantum crystals that grew naturally in Kethros's caves, the planet's fate was sealed. The invasion began at dawn. Hegemony warships dropped from hyperspace like falling stars, their energy weapons turning the sky white. The first strikes targeted communication centers and power grids, ancient tactics designed to isolate and terrorize. The Kethrons had no military. They possessed no weapons beyond farming tools. As the invaders' dropships screamed toward their cities, they could only huddle together and try to understand why anyone would bring such violence to their world. Elder Zixthal was dying. Age had finally caught the ancient Kethran, his once vibrant shell now dull and cracked. But as explosions rocked Kethmarin, he remembered the human's words from long ago. With shaking hands, he activated the beacon. Asterisk, the fleet remembers, the signal reached Admiral Sarah Chen while she was reviewing tactical reports in her ready room aboard the HSS Retribution. The beacon's code was one she hadn't seen in 18 years, but she recognized it instantly. Kethros, her hands trembled as she activated the full message. Zixthal's voice, weakened by age and pain, whispered across the void. "Sarah Chen of the humans, darkness has come to our world. We... We remember your words, please." The transmission ended there. Sarah stared at the beacon's location data, her mind racing. Kethros was 1,200 light-years, away, far beyond the reach of any rescue mission, any conventional rescue mission, but humans didn't do conventional within 6 hours. Admiral Chen had assembled the largest fleet in Human Defense Force history, the Fifth Fleet's full strength, 200 ships ranging from massive dreadnoughts, 2 swift interceptors, Every captain who could reach the rendezvous point came without question. Admiral Chen's reputation preceded her. The officers knew she'd never called in favors lightly, never asked for more than necessary. If Chen said a planet needed saving, they believed her. Ladies and gentlemen, Sarah addressed her fleet commanders via hololink. 18 years ago, an alien species saved my life. They asked for nothing in return, expected nothing in return. Now they're calling in that debt. She showed them the tactical data streaming in from long-range sensors. Hegemony forces had surrounded Kethros, establishing orbital control and beginning systematic harvesting operations. The Kethros were being herded into work camps, their cities burning. The enemy has a 2-day head start and numerical superiority, Sarah continued. They've enslaved a peaceful population and turned a garden world into a strip mine. Questions. Captain Rodriguez of the Iron Will raised his hand. Admiral, we're looking at a fight against impossible odds, in enemy-controlled space, for a species most of us have never heard of. What's our strategic objective? Sarah's smile was cold as interstellar space. We're going to remind the galaxy why you don't touch our friends. The fleet jumped to hyperspace in perfect formation. The hegemony forces never saw them coming. Admiral Chen had ordered complete sensor silence, using gravitational wake riding to mask their approach. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at point-blank range. Already firing, hegemony Admiral Vorth barely had time to register the impossible 200 human warships, materializing around his positions like ghosts made manifest. All ships, engage at will, Sarah ordered calmly. Priority targets are troop transports and mining vessels. We save the civilians first. The battle was spectacular and brief. Human tactical doctrine emphasized speed, precision, and overwhelming force applied at the enemy's weakest points. While hegemony ships were individually powerful, they were designed for planetary bombardment, not fleet combat against an equal foe. **. The Retribution's railguns punched through enemy shields like they were soap bubbles. Missile salvos from the destroyers turned hegemony cruisers into expanding clouds of debris. Human fighters, piloted by warriors who'd grown up dreaming of moments like this, danced between enemy formations with lethal grace. But the real battle was on the ground. Sarah led the assault personally, her drop pods screaming through Kethros's atmosphere, toward the largest refugee camp. Around her, 1,000 human marines descended like angels of vengeance, their powered armor gleaming in the alien sun. The hegemony guards never stood a chance. Human soldiers, fighting to protect innocents, were unstoppable. They moved through the camp with surgical precision, eliminating threats while carefully avoiding harm to the Kethron prisoners. Sarah found Valana in the medical tent, tending to wounded children with the same gentle care she'd once shown a crashed human pilot. The years had changed her. Her shell bore new scars. Her movements carried the weight of leadership, but her compound eyes still held that same compassionate intelligence. Sarah Valana's voice was a whisper of disbelief. "I told you we'd come," Sarah said softly, removing her helmet. "Humanity keeps its promises." Around them, the camp erupted in celebration as human medics began treating the wounded and engineers, started dismantling the prison barriers. The liberation of Kethros was proceeding exactly as planned, but Admiral Vorth wasn't finished. As his fleet crumbled around him, he ordered his flagship's remaining weapons to target Kethmorin itself. If he couldn't hold the planet, he'd destroy it out of spite. Sarah saw the massive energy build up on her tactical display. The Hegemony dreadnought was charging its planet-killer cannoner, weapon designed to crack continents. All ships, intercept that battleship, she ordered, but they were too far away. The weapon would fire before anyone could stop it, except for one ship. Captain Martinez of the destroyer Dancing Blade was already in position, his ship barely a speck next to the massive enemy dreadnought. He didn't hesitate. The Dancing Blade rammed the Hegemony flagship at full power, her fusion reactors overloading on impact. The explosion lit up half the system. When the glare faded, both ships were gone. But Kethmorin still lived in the aftermath, as human ships established orbital. Security and relief supplies poured down to the surface. Sarah stood with Valana in the ruins of her father's garden. Zixtal had died during the invasion, but his final act activating the beacon had saved his people. "Your Captain Martinez," Valana said quietly. "He sacrificed everything for strangers." Sarah nodded, watching Human and Catherine children playing together in the bioluminescent flowers. "That's what we do. When someone saves one of us, they save all of us. When someone threatens our friends, they threaten humanity itself." Valana's mandibles clicked in wonder. "We saved one human, one small life among billions." "No," Sarah said firmly. "You saved the right human, and now you'll never be alone again." Above them, human ships patrolled the skies of Kethros, their message clear to any who might threaten this world again. The Kethrans had learned that day what the galaxy already knew: humanity doesn't forget its debts, and it protects its own. The beacon Zixtal had activated 18 years later had brought more than rescue. It had brought a promise that would echo across the stars, touch our friends, and face the full might of humanity. In the end, that was the most human response of all. Asterisk,